Hello, Helen Laser. Hi.
Hello, Jennifer Apple. What's up?
It's so good to have you in this space.
It's so nice to see you.
I know. For anybody who's tuning into the YouTube, you can see that Helen is in like the most decked out, soundproofed
Oh, yeah.
booth,
We got
which is
carpeting, foam.
beyond. Yeah, no, it's really impressive, which is literally why you're here to talk for this whole conversation. But before we even dive in, um, who are you today?
Today, I'm a woman. No, I'm a lady, and I'm an actor of all different kinds. The kind we're going to focus on today is audiobooks, but I do all kinds of voiceover, theater, film, television. I just like doing it. It's great.
You're a human with like the many hats, and I feel like every hat you put on actually is a very visually different hat. Like there's some people who like
Sure.
they
Yeah.
have many hats, but it's just like the same hat, but kind of just like maybe a different like skew of it.
Oh yeah. I
I
got
feel like yours
you
is
know bowler,
crazy hat.
straw hat,
Mhm.
big feather. We got all of them. Yeah,
Yeah, and
many
that's kind of
facets.
exactly. I really feel that for you, which makes my heart really happy. I have been a fan of your work from afar, but also, I mean, at this point, we've been in each other's spheres because of undergrad overlap, despite not overlapping same years for
Yeah.
years. I've said years way too many times at this point.
That's
But
a-okay.
it
There's so many
holds.
años.
Listen,
Ugh, a
and they'll keep
panoply.
going. They'll keep going forever, hopefully. And I feel like you are the epitome of somebody who has really put the nose to the grind and made it happen for yourself without waiting for permission, frankly, from other people, and also waiting for like the rule book or like something to fall from the sky. And the hustle, especially in the voiceover land of it, that you have is really admirable. And I'm just really pumped to have you in the space to kind of unpack all of it. I'm curious just from like starting point so that we can kind of then get into the weeds of it all. Like how did you get into voiceover world, audiobook specifically, but generally what made you interested in this as a particular medium of expression? And where did you start?
Sure. So actually, I found a little journal that I had as a kid where I wrote like it was like it had prompts where it'd be like,
Mhm.
what kind of house do you want to live in when you grow up, or what kind of this, like the
Like MASH, like that thing we used to
kind
do
of,
as
yeah, but it
kids?
was like a
Okay.
journal that you could, like, enter, you could draw a picture and write your
Yeah,
response, and it
yeah.
was sort of like little prompts, like the 2000s version of, like, manifesting, basically, and
Amazing.
so and I wrote in it, it was something along the lines of, like, "I wanna do the voices in cartoons, I wanna teach, and I wanna act," and I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, uh,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing," so it worked out well.
It's
But,
amazing.
so I always wanted to act, I was always really interested in that. I started with musical theater and then swiftly was like, maybe not." Like, I like certain kinds of musicals, but maybe not the ones where you have to have 12 years of ballet. And, uh,
Mhm.
and then when I graduated from school, I've always been in kind of a position where finances are something that I need to be concerned about and think about.
Mhm.
From growing up to now, it's always, if you know, you know, it's always on the back
Yeah.
burner, it's always something you're thinking about, and I basically just kinda heard from people that a really great way to make money as an actor is to do commercials and to do voiceover, and I was like, "Okay, let's, hear about that." So I talked to another Muhlenberg grad, George
Okay.
Primavera. I was like
Yeah.
basically like, "Can we sit down for a coffee? Can we chat?" And he was, the best, and we were, friends and everything, but it you don't have to sit down and chat with people, and he really took
Mhm.
the time, and I was like, "I know you're doing voiceover. How how does one do this?" And he gave me really great advice. He pointed me towards a coach who I ended up working with who I swear by. That's where all of my training began with voiceover, and she is
Mhm.
truly the reason why things kicked off the way they did and why
May
things
I
went
ask
the way
who
they
that
did.
is?
Yes, her name is Dorianne Elliott. She
Mhm.
rules. She, is just she really like, she won't take less than your best, which I really
Mm.
appreciate. Like, she won't just be like, that was good," like, she'll be like,
Yeah.
"That's not it. Let's do it again."
Mhm.
And she was an incredible coach, coached me through everything. I, got my demo done, and she coached me through that as well, and she was the reason I got my first agent, and from there, like, the nice thing was so again, if we're talking about money, I was very nervous because, coaching is expensive. It just is,
Yeah.
because when you're paying for someone's time, you're paying for their time, their expertise, them coming up with a lesson plan for you, for all the resources they have, the many years of experience. Like, you're not just paying for someone like fixing your toilet, you're paying
Yeah.
for the tools and everything that they have to offer you. So, like, she charges an amount that is fair, but for me, I was scared because it was a lot for me
Yeah.
as someone with like no money. I just
Yeah.
graduated from school. I was living in my parents' house, which was very,
Mhm.
very lucky. Um, so I basically was like, okay, do I work every freaking minute and spend
Hmm.
almost everything I have on this coach who I don't know if it'll work out or not? Do I
Mm.
take the chance? And I had to think about it for months. Like, I really sat and thought
Yeah.
about it for a while because it was a huge decision, a huge financial
Mhm.
decision that I had never had to make before. But I decided, okay, let's do it. Hopefully it'll work out. And I was really glad it did, because right before right before I, did that, the demo record, which is expensive, it was,
Mhm.
I think it's probably different now, but at the time, it was like $1,300
Wow.
for, like, 2 minutes of audio, but,
Yeah.
it's at a really great recording studio. Everyone who's mixing it is, like, at the absolute top of their field, and it sounds incredible. So, like, it's like
Mhm.
I talk about it like headshots, like, you wouldn't
Yeah.
get your best friend to take your headshot unless they are a professional photographer and they've got a good
Right.
camera. You wouldn't use a selfie as a headshot. Sometimes
Mhm.
you have to make the investment. So, anyway, before I even recorded my demo to, like, go out in the world and be like, "Hello, agents, I want you to choose me," um, I got an audition from, a casting director, Jodie Kipperman, who she brings me in a lot for on-camera stuff, but she was like, "Hey, you do voiceover, right?" And I was like, not believing in myself at all, but I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah, of
I
course,
totally
100%.
do."
Yeah, definitely.
I was
Years
like
experience,
I was
years of
like,
experience.
"Well, I've been taking these classes, so, whatever, I'll give it a try." She was like, "Great, audition for this," and booked it. First
Booked it.
audition I ever did.
Wow.
It paid
What was it
for
for?
it was for OGX shampoo,
Okay.
and it was, like, internal. It never even aired, but it was for a bunch of different spots, so it paid for all of the classes I had done and the
Wow.
demo before I even did it, and I was like, "Well, you know what? No matter what happens, I will come out even."
Wow.
So even if I never book anything else, which, like, spoiler, I did, but, even if nothing else happens, I came out even.
Yeah.
And then I went from there, and,
Wow.
did I book everything I ever auditioned for? No, that was
Yeah.
incredibly lucky, but it was this really great moment of, like, "Maybe I can, like, do this. Maybe
Yeah.
I have what I need. I have the tools. I
Well, you
have
had
the ability."
affirmation kind of before the gate even opened. You
Yeah,
were just, like, already in the mix of it all, and then you had the audition, and then you booked that audition, and then it's like, "Oh, I clearly have something going
yeah,
on over here without me even knowing what it is," and
yeah.
so I imagine that was an ego boost to even start,
I mean,
like,
well, and it was
you know?
better even than any teacher or any mentor or any friend being like, "You're great at this. You can do it." It was
Yeah.
evidence. Like, the way my
Yeah.
brain works, like, I need evidence. I need to
Most
know,
people
like.
do. I think that's why this career is so hard because it's like we really don't have the tangible feedback. It's
Right,
you
yeah,
have to, rely on what you know and trust yourself and
yeah,
trust that the universe is working in your favor and all
yeah,
the other things. Okay, so you did this class, you booked this audition, and
yeah.
you got this
So
audition, you booked the job. Great.
yeah,
So how did you then begin rocking and rolling through all of it? How did you know where to start? How did you know where to put yourself on the ethers of the interwebs? How did you know where to reach out? How did you know?
basically, to give you the, like, streamlined version,
Yeah.
I started doing commercials, because again, Dorian, my coach, introduced me to an agent, and we met, and she liked me, and we hit it off. It was great. I start booking like crazy, like tons of voiceover. Very important fact, non-union commercial voiceover, because I
Yeah.
was not SAG at this point. It's great. I'm making good money. I'm booking like a thing a week. I was like, "Woo!" Like, I'm
Mhm.
rooting, I'm tooting, it's happening. And then I booked a role on Bull on CBS,
Mhm.
and then at that point, I was a must join because that first thing, that OGX commercial, that was also SAG.
Did they Taft-Hartley you for that one? Like, they
I think
excused
they
you
did,
for it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So, then at that point, I was a must join, so it was either, do a role on network television or, but you have to join SAG, and I wanted to join the union. Like, I'm currently a SAG member, I am a proud union actor, but at that time, what I had been told by everyone, and which is still true, was that a vast majority of voiceover work is non-union currently,
Yeah.
and that is, I'll say it, bad. It's bad
Mhm.
because they don't have to pay you as much, they don't have to treat you as well, you don't get money towards your
Correct.
health insurance, you don't get residuals, like, there's all these reasons why that is really disadvantageous for us, as actors because, there's a reason we
Yeah.
have unions, it is to protect workers. It's not a
Mhm.
club, it's
Period.
not a prestige, cool, like a cool club to be part of, it
Badge,
is
yeah.
specifically to protect us. So when things are non-union, that's not great. So anyway, so I was like, okay, I have a choice. I got to join the union, and I get things sorted out. I get, a new agent who I work with now, very happy with them. They only submit for union things. Great. Hooray. Awesome. But I'm getting a lot less auditions because most
Yeah.
things are non-union. And I was like, well, F, what am I
Mhm.
shoot, I was booking all the time and I felt like I was getting not rusty, but I just was like, I'm not using everything I have, and I
Yeah.
just all I wanna be is in the room, and I mean, we've talked about this, that's just like, if I could just
100%.
get in the room, I wouldn't even care if I didn't book anything. If
Yeah.
I get an audition, that means I get to act that day, and I feel
Yeah.
good about that. I walk out of there and I'm like, I'm glowing, I just feel, like,
Mhm.
bedazzled, I just feel incredible, and so I was frustrated, and I was also like, "And I need to make money, so, like, what am I gonna
Yeah.
do?" And audiobooks was always something I was interested in. I listened to a lot of audiobooks as a kid. My parents are both writers. I went to school and I have both an acting degree and an English literature degree. It just made sense. But I had
Yeah.
no idea where to start. And so basically what I did was I talked to people I knew who had kind of done audiobooks and I also I called SAG. I called the union for guidance. And then through a twisted turny tunnel of many different events, I got an audition at Audible, like at Audible headquarters in Newark. Like it was like
From your
someone
agent or
from
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 your own
someone at
submission?
SAG, but it was, like, through a bunch of like, it was like, "This person
Word.
swears by Helen, and Helen swears that she really wants to do this," and, like, I kind of had to, like, prove that I wanted it, and I had to be like,
Mm,
"Hey, like, I really love to read, I really love audiobooks, I really think I'd be good for this. If they would give me a chance, I would really like to go in and audition."
yeah.
So, I proved that I wanted it. I did not take no for an answer, but very respectfully. And then they got me an audition to go to Audible headquarters. So I took the train, from Penn
Was it like a
Station.
general at Audible? Like a general
It
meeting
was
with
just
them?
not even a meeting, like, it was like, "We're gonna give you some material, you're going to
Okay.
read it, like, in the studio, and then we'll just kinda see what happens." So I
Got
went
it.
in, I read it, it was some kind of, like, science book, I think. It was not, like, dialogue, but I was like, "I'm gonna make this science interesting."
Yeah.
And I did it, and then a guy I did not clock this at the time, but a guy walked in, into the audition, was like, "Hey, what's going on?" They're like, "Oh, we're auditioning this girl." He listened and then he left the room, but I didn't clock that because I was like, "And then the science happened." And turns out that was like the head producer at Audible and he was like,
Wow.
"We want her."
Wow.
I found out later that he tells students when he's talking to them, like, that was one of the best auditions I'd ever heard, and I wanted her
Helen!
real effing bad, and so I said, "She's gotta be one of ours now." And I was like,
Helen!
I didn't know that at the time, like, I had no idea. He told me this, like, years later. Now we're friends. He lives in the same neighborhood as me, like, we see each
Yeah.
other around, and he's just the nicest person in the world, and I love working with him, and he always, thinks of me like, "Hey, I've got, like, a tiny role in this multicast. Do you wanna do it?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
Mhm.
sure, whatever, man." And so I'll come down and I'll do it, and it's great. And so that is how it started. I started there, and then basically what I did was I just talked to people a lot, which is, a thing that I mean, part of why I'm, like, here on this podcast, or if somebody, someone from Muhlenberg is like, "Hey, could I take a little bit of your time to talk about
Yeah.
voiceover or about whatever?" I usually say yes, as long as it's polite, and,
Yeah.
like, as long as the person is, like, pretty chill about it or I have some connection to them and, I'll spare some time because that's what I did. Like, I just had
Mhm.
to kind of not be afraid and be like, "If you have any spare time in the next couple weeks, I would love to buy you a cup of coffee and ask you some questions. Would that be okay?" And
Yeah.
I think it's always better to be upfront because I I'll just say I get some weird DMs sometimes from someone who I like, maybe I worked with them like one time or like we went to high school together
Mhm.
or something. And I'm not trying to shade these people at all, but like I don't like when they'll send me a DM and be like, "Helen, what's up? How are you?" And I'll be
Yeah.
like, I'm good. How are you? I see that you moved to LA. That's so great." They're like, "Yeah, yeah." I'm like, doing big things coming. Anyway, so yeah, like, New York's good, and I'll be like, "Yeah, no, it's good."
Like, what are you getting? Like, I know you're getting to the thing,
And
like,
then they'll
what
be
is
like,
the
"So,
thing?
like, could you, like, tell me, like, all your secrets for voiceover?"
Yeah,
And then I always
yeah,
feel weird because it feels like
yeah.
they were kind of, like, trying to, like, sneak it in, in a
Correct,
weird
as
way.
opposed to leading with the elephant of like, "Hey, here's the thing, I've admired your career,
I don't even
I've
need the
I've"
compliment, like,
yeah.
you know,
"Hey, I see that you do a lot of
stop.
voiceover, are you able to,
I
like,
would
chat with
rather
me?"
a straight
Exactly,
shooter,
100%.
as long as it's respectful. I would just always rather
Yeah,
someone just be like, "Hey, this is a thing I wanna do. I wanna learn how to
yeah,
do it. I see that you are doing what I wanna be doing. Can I
yeah,
have an hour of your time?" And I almost
exactly.
always say yes, like,
Yeah,
almost always, because 'cause I'm like, "That's what I did." So,
yeah,
like, there's a narrator named, Sarah Malo Christensen who was, a mutual friend of a mutual friend through theater stuff, and she agreed to sit down with me, complete strangers. I didn't know her. Now we're colleagues, and we, like, we
yeah,
talk, we see each other around at recording studios, but she sat down with me and I asked her all the questions about, like, how do you become a career narrator? Like, how do you do that? And she gave me, like, answers that I still will reference, like, now, like, like, I
I
wrote.
mean, I'm ready for them whenever you are.
Well, I mean, basically, one of the main things she said was, you gotta have a home setup. That is
Mhm,
really key because more and more as time goes on, producers are, and it's not necessarily their fault, but, like, everyone cares about the bottom line. Like,
which is
publishers are.
money and making
Yes.
keeping the money and making the money, correct.
Everybody is just like, the budgets are going down, down, down. The
Yeah,
profits for them are going up, 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 which means that we're in some trouble. But, so they're realizing, "Oh, we don't have to book a studio for all of our talent. We can just make them do it at home. We don't have
right,
to pay an engineer to work with them. They can just do that." So they can
correct.
direct themselves, record themselves, be their own recording studio, and do all of that on their own, and we don't have to pay them more. And they
Yeah,
don't. You don't get a kit
yeah,
fee. You don't get an at-home fee. It's the
yeah.
same rate, whatever it is. So, having an at-home setup, really important. Being able to engineer yourself, really important. Um, it's hard when you first start. It is hard when you
Yeah.
first start and you're feeling overwhelmed, but if you do it a little bit every day, you will get very confident. It will become second nature. But that's,
Well,
like,
let's
the
boil
key.
it down. Like, let's really go there, right? So let's say,
Go in there.
we had an episode, with Sarah Kapner in season 1 all
We
about, like,
have the
getting
same agent and
into
we did a Dunkin' Donuts ad together.
obsessed, obsessed. Yeah, we had her on
Yes.
to talk about voiceover, and obviously there's overlap here, and so, this is also just, like, some time after
Yeah.
that, and so I think the overlap is helpful to hear. Also, feel free to go back and listen to that
Yeah, yeah.
episode, and also, obviously, we're gearing this more a little bit to audio
Sure, sure.
books, but at the same time, it's all part of the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to go to the nitty-gritty of, like, I wanna get into voiceover generally, and I
Yeah.
need to have my home studio space. I think part of, a huge point of entry for many people is, of course, the finances and the investment
Yeah.
in doing it.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge component. The second part is, where do I begin when there's so much equipment
Yeah.
and there's so many options and
Yeah.
possibilities for space? What if it's okay, if I don't have a lot of space, where
Yeah.
can I make the space and how can I make it work?
Yeah.
So I'm curious to, like, talk through perhaps different variations of even just like the start of the setup of it, and
Yeah,
then we can
yeah. No,
go from there.
I will take you through it.
Yeah, let's
We'll
do.
dig deep. We're digging in. I so and to be clear too, like, I've been doing audiobooks, like, professionally as, like, my main source of income, and that's been great. I didn't get a booth until, like, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, like, some of the biggest titles I've done in a closet. So, you don't have to, like, if you take one thing away from this, you do not have to buy thousands of dollars worth of equipment to be a career narrator or to get into voiceover or for any of it. People
Yeah.
might try to sell you things and be like, "You actually really need this," or they'll say the thing which is a variation of what I said before of, like, "It's an investment, you have to invest." I agree, but to a point, because expensive does not necessarily equal better, and there is
Mhm.
perfectly good equipment where, the margin of difference,
Right.
between a $300 microphone and an $1,000 microphone, there's a difference. I can hear it. I have a trained ear at this point, and if I hear 2 samples, I can tell. But, like, a year or 2 ago, I would
Yeah.
never have been able to tell the difference. Most people can't, and
Yeah.
the amount of difference is so minute that and if you don't have
Yeah.
those funds now, then don't go into debt, like, you want to
Right.
invest but do it in a smart way. And so that is something I will talk about, I suppose,
Yeah,
right now. Um,
let's do it.
let's do it. So, having an at-home setup, uh, uh, the ideal is that you have a walk-in closet, but we're New
Yeah,
Yorkers, so probably not. But,
yeah,
but if you live somewhere else or if you live in New York and you are blessed with a walk-in closet, mwah, you're there, you're good, like, you can rest easy. If you don't have a walk-in
mhm,
closet, that's okay, it will just be less of a comfortable space starting out, but that's okay, and there are ways to make it comfortable.
yeah,
Basically, you wanna take your closet there's also other ways to do this, but I've just found that closets get the best sound quality for me,
mhm.
again,
Well,
and
'cause you're dampening sound already because
yeah.
you don't have it's just not as vast.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, a booth is a closet, basically.
yeah,
It's just having a bunch of stuff that absorbs sound, and also, I wanna say too up front, everything I'm saying is from my own experience. We know that, but I want
yeah,
everything I say, take a grain of salt. Someone else's experience might be very different, and I would
yeah.
not want someone to be like, "What the hell?" It didn't work
No, I
for
mean,
me.
that's why I have
Yeah,
people of various things, like,
yeah.
experiences, like, on here even just to be like, "Look, there's a breadth
Yeah,
of knowledge
there's
out there, and take what works and leave what doesn't."
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, first of all, I would recommend very highly and anything I'm recommending, I have no affiliation with. I'm not an
Yeah,
influencer or whatever, or a publicist, but these are just things that I like resources or equipment that I personally have used and really
yeah,
liked. So someone I want to recommend, really brilliant YouTuber, voice actor, narrator. It's Booth Junkie, so Booth Junkie. And
mhm,
he does all these god dang YouTube videos. I owe him a lot. I really do. I've never talked to him. I
mhm.
don't know him personally. His videos are fantastic because he will take you through learning your DAW, which is your digital audio workstation, i.e., just whatever software you use to record, but DAW is like the
Mhm,
professional word. So there you go.
mhm.
He will teach you how to engineer, how to set up your software the way you want it. He also has a great video, which I used a lot of times because during the pandemic, I had to move like
Yeah.
3 times, and I had to make a new space every single time from nothing, and he has these great videos that are like, "Hey, I'm in a hotel. I have a booking in 10 minutes. Watch me
How
figure
do I
out
set this up?
how the
Yeah.
how the heck I'm gonna do this." And he just, he, like, shows he's like, "I'm putting a pillow here for this reason and here for that," and he shows, like, the difference of, like, if I record out here versus if I record in my closet. It's a big difference, and so his
Mhm.
videos are really educational, he really takes you through it, never condescending, highly recommend. Um,
Cool.
so his videos are great, I used those a lot, and basically, you wanna take a closet space or a space with a lot of sound dampening, i.e., carpets, towels, blankets, rugs,
Pillows.
pillows,
Yeah.
curtains, anything,
Jackets.
jackets, yeah. Basically, the rule of thumb that I use is if it absorbs water, it absorbs sound, and that's good. So if you could take a rubber bouncy ball and you could bounce something off of something, like if you could bounce it off of like, a hardwood wall, it's gonna bounce right back at you, and that's not good. You want it
Right.
to not bounce at all, so I've got, like foam panels because this is just a door, like a
Mhm.
Home Depot door.
Yeah.
Um, I This booth is, because there's a lot of like prefabricated booth
Mhm.
companies. This booth was built by a friend of a friend who is now my friend, and he custom builds booths for people, and so I was
Amazing.
like, "Me, please," and so he built me
Yeah.
this booth. It's great, it's exactly what I need, and I didn't spend $10,000 on it, so ideal.
Yeah.
I didn't wanna do that,
Yeah.
and the sound quality is great, and anyway, I could go on 15,000 tangents with this, but the point is there
Closet, dampening, walls,
well,
carpets,
yes,
rugs, all the things.
good. So when you set up your closet space, do not take the clothes out is the point. Because I feel
Mhm.
like, sometimes I'll do consultations with people and sometimes it'll be on Zoom and they'll be like, "Look," they'll hold their computer up, "Look, I cleared the whole space out, like,
Yeah.
it's ready for us to work with," and I'm like, "I'm so sorry. Can you put
Please put it all
everything"
back. Yeah.
You gotta put it all back because that's what absorbs the sound, and it's, and if you wanna kind of get an idea, it's like the difference between the sound in your bathroom versus in your bedroom, because the bathroom is gonna have tile and wood and windows and hard floor and, everything's gonna echo. That's why you sound great when you sing in the shower because 'cause you're getting a lot of reverb, which is just the sound bouncing off of every surface.
Mhm.
When you're in your bedroom, you've got a comforter, you've got curtains, you've got a rug, you've got, things on the walls. And so you're not gonna hear that same reverberation, you're not gonna get that echo
Yeah.
because it's dampening, so dampening is good.
What
Um,
about if you have, like, a really big I mean, let's say you're, like, living in luxury in New York and you have a really big closet, how would you wanna make your space a little bit more intimate? Are you trying to put up panels? Are you
um,
trying to
oh, yeah.
just put more of your clothing on the other side of it? Like, how are you trying to make your
Um,
space less echoey?
Basically, any hard surfaces, try to cover them. So if you have, well, it's gonna have walls. So on the walls, you wanna put maybe egg crate foam or carpeting, like, this is just carpeting that I
Mhm.
got from Home Depot, very cheap rolls of it. You can just roll it on the walls,
Yeah.
staple gun it in.
I
Um
have, like, the moving blankets that
Yeah, moving
you
blankets are great.
Mhm.
Yeah, anything that's gonna be soft and just you can put it up over the wall, and if you're a renter, that you can easily take down and not lose your security deposit.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're just covering any hard surfaces. That includes if you have, like, a table, like, right now, I have, like, a lovely desk that I adore, and I covered it with fabric, so every
Mhm.
surface of this desk is totally covered so that, my there's no even tiny, teeny echo
Yeah.
of my voice bouncing off of it. And
Yeah.
obviously, like, if you can't reach the ceiling, like, don't fucking worry about it, it'll be fine. But generally, you wanna just try to cover any of the, hard spaces, the hard
Yeah.
spots with carpeting or foam. Getting panels like these are great, but they are not necessary. Like, you don't have
Mhm.
to. There are other ways to do it. There's other kinds of foam that will maybe not be, perfectly acoustically treating your space, but they will
Yeah.
do kind of the same thing. And if you are a beginner, you don't have to buy all the expensive crap. Like,
Yeah.
I got to having a booth after, like, years and years and years of doing this. So
Yeah.
that I was like, all right, I've earned it.
What about in terms of, like, the equipment itself, right? So that's another like, you can go down a rabbit hole of
Sure.
there's so many options and there's so many things
Yeah.
and where do I start? Is it like you get a Blue Yeti to start with and you call it a day, or is it like, let's invest in a,
I mean,
compression mic and,
it's
like
funny that you say that because I did start with a Blue Yeti, but it was because a friend gave it to me. He was very
Mhm.
nice. He was like, I just use this as a paperweight. I feel like you'll get more use out of it. And I did.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing I'll say. It depends on where you are financially, like what you are financially able to get, because
Mhm.
I never want to assume, that someone's like not caring about their career because they won't buy the thing that they're supposed to buy. Like, I understand that
Yeah.
everyone's in a different financial
Yeah.
situation, so that it needs to be taken into account. And what you eventually like want. Like, if this is a career that you're just kind of dabbling in to see if it'll work out, that's one thing. Or if you're like, I'm all in, I want to do this, let's go, you might wanna just, skip the line, invest in the thing, whatever the thing is. I kind of see it in, like, there's, like, tiers almost, and so, like, tier
Mhm.
1 would be, like, a Yeti, and
Mhm.
the thing about a Yeti mic is engineers are not gonna love the sound that you get out of it just because it's not a, like, XLR hookup,
Mhm.
it's a USB, and here's where we get into the weeds a little bit because I'm not an engineer, even though I engineer for myself every day, but I did
Yeah.
not go to school for it. I watched a lot of YouTube and took some online courses. So I don't know everything. I just know that for USB microphones, something about that direct connection to the computer, it just makes the
It's
quality
weaker.
of the sound not quite what everyone necessarily wants. And so it's just a little bit degraded in a way that they're not super happy with usually. That being said, half of people can't tell the difference necessarily, but anyway.
Yeah.
Next up from that, would be the mic that I used for a good long time, which would be I used the, Audio-Technica 4050 numbers,
Mhm.
and that was great. I think it's like
I have
$300?
an Audio Technica too for my
Yeah.
voiceover stuff.
It's
I
a
forget which
it's a
one it
good
is.
it's a great mic.
Yeah.
Listen, I recorded Yellowface on that mic, it's a good mic.
Yeah.
Like, it has
Yeah.
served me very, very well. Um in the 3rd budget thing, I'm not gonna go into it yet because there is a knockoff version of this mic, and, so Sennheiser's gonna get pissed at me, but whatever. It's called the Synco D2, and it's the same thing. It's a long directional
Mhm.
microphone basically, this is a boom mic, but you can use
Right.
it for voiceover, and it's great for voiceover, especially in New York because it's just picking up this, it's not picking up everything out there.
Mhm.
So the Synco D2, and Booth Junkie did a video comparing the 2. I can
Uh,
hear the difference, but barely. I mean, they are
yeah.
close. That being said, I don't know how the Synco D2 holds up over time. Like, this is a mic
Okay.
that's like, you can have it for the rest of your life. Like, it's gonna serve you well. But that microphone, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's made
Yeah.
worse or better. Like, I don't know about the internal workings of it, so I don't wanna, like,
Yeah.
swear by it, but if you don't have $1,000 and you only have, I don't know, I think it's like $200 or like 120. It goes
Yeah.
on sale constantly. So that's a great mic. You also want to make
Cool.
sure if you have an XLR microphone that you have cables
Mhm.
and a interface.
Mhm.
I use a Focusrite Scarlett Solo.
That's what I
It's
have, yeah.
simple, it's good, it's,
Yeah.
there are better ones, but I'm just like, I don't know, man, like, it works for me, and it was
Yeah.
inexpensive, and, like, I've really never had a big problem with it, so, whatever, man.
Great. What
Um
about your, like, your editing tool? Obviously, I imagine there's tiers for this as
Oh,
well,
sure, yeah.
but, like, what about, like, the GarageBand versus like, where are we like, as we
Right.
build up, like,
Um,
is it cool to start with that? How do we where are we
right.
at?
Well, before I go into it too, I just wanna also mention headphones. I
Yes.
use Sony's. They're like $99. They're great. There's other headphones that are great. You just wanna make sure they're over ear, but they are not noise canceling.
Right.
That's key. There's other ones like Audio Technica does great headphones, as does, I think it's Bayer Dynamic. I might not be saying that right, but they're a good company as well, and I like theirs because they have, it's very velvety on your ear, like, it's like a
Yeah.
velvet. Anyway, I love those, but I don't own them, so, sponsor me. I'm joking.
You're fine.
And then, okay, so in, software/DAW, slash DAW,
Yes.
that's yeah, editing software. I use Reaper. I really like it. It's shaped like a guitar pick. I find it very easy to look at. Like I like, and it's very customizable, which a lot of musicians really like, that
Mhm.
you can put all the buttons the way you want it to be. You can have like a template, so when you open it, it's exactly the way you want it. You don't have to like, deal with making new tracks or whatever. It's there in front of you. So I really
Did you
like that.
start with that?
What did I think I started with GarageBand, quickly was like, this sucks. And, oh, I'm really shading things here. I'm really
No, it's
like this,
cute.
it wasn't what I needed it to be. And then I kind of alternately was doing Twisted Wave and Audacity, and those are
Okay.
good. They are fine. They have everything you need. But I was like, I could probably make this easier for myself. The thing about Reaper, you have to learn it. Like, it is like learning a
Yeah. Well,
language.
that was my question is because, like, for I'll speak on behalf of myself. It's
Yeah.
like if I'm not I clearly didn't go and become a technical person in any regard about my career, like, for a reason. I mean, like, technical at my craft, but, like,
Mhm.
not in terms of, like, literal tech.
Right,
Like, that's
right.
not where I go to, shine.
Mhm.
And so the idea of becoming an actual engineer at my home, is not something that I ever wanted to do,
Yeah.
and as we were saying, it's somehow in some ways becomes
Yeah.
the minor parts of it are now a necessity if,
Yeah.
like, you're trying to do this at home, not you don't have to become a full engineer, but, like,
Yeah.
just, like, even the basics of it and the idea of, like, sitting down and watching YouTube videos, I mean, like, I will not do that for,
Well,
like, to learn an entire software system like
yeah.
you did. So, what do I do?
Well, when I had that chat with Sarah Malo Christensen, who I mentioned before, she was like, "You're
Yeah,
gonna have to have an at-home setup," and I was like, I don't know if I can do that, because 'cause I'm like you."
right.
Like, I was like, "I'm not an engineer, I don't know
Yeah,
tech, I'm really not a techie person, like, that's just not where my
yeah,
abilities lie." I was like, "I just wanna fucking act, I just wanna act,
correct.
I don't wanna have to do all these other jobs, like, ugh," and I was really frustrated, and because 'cause I'd only worked at, Audible or, like, Penguin Random House, they bring you in, and I was like, God, like, I was so stressed out, but then the pandemic hit, and I was like, "Well, now I have to learn." Like, now
Yeah.
I have to learn, and it
How long
was
did it take you,
well, I'm
in
still
fairness?
learning, I really am, like, I'm still
So 4
learning
years.
things, but April
I'm not judging it, I'm
no, no,
just,
no, no, but, like,
remarking,
I
like
mean, April of 2020, I recorded a Baskin Robbins voiceover spot, like a TV commercial
Mhm.
in my house using Source Connect, using, Reaper or whatever. And those were software I had never used in my life. I did not know how they worked. I was like freaked out, but I did it. So I
Yeah,
was conducting professional sessions by
yeah,
April, and we all know it started, in March. So I
yeah,
figured it out quickly, but I
yeah.
didn't know everything I needed to know. So I would say give yourself like a month or two to like get your feet under you, and then by then you will have everything you need to like bare bones operate, you know?
So basically, if I'm boiling this down,
Yeah, yeah,
what we're talking about is like get yourself a booth. If we're talking basic booth, we're talking about your closet. If
yeah.
we're talking about you don't have the budget for any sort of real foam or any sort of actual booth that's personalized, put all of your clothing back in your closet, put all of your blankets everywhere, make yourself a cozy little fort where you happen to have space and comfort where you can sit and be dampened with all of your sound. Invest yourself in one of the 3 tiers of the mics. You can always migrate up into the mic lands depending on where you're
Mhm.
at. Get yourself a pair of headphones that are not noise canceling but have really good sound in them that you can connect. Get your wiring all sorted out. Make sure you have access to one of the DAW.
I use
What's
Reaper. Another one
Reaper?
that people use, the
What is
industry
it?
standard is Pro Tools. Audacity is free. It's really good for beginners. That's why I encourage people to download it as like a thing to try out.
Yes.
So that's good.
Great. Yeah. So GarageBand, Audacity, Reaper, any of these other ones, great. And then Source Connect will be something that they will obviously need for you to have when and if you are actually
Yeah.
booked and blessed so that they can actually get your stuff from you and it's more of a professional interface for them to do that situation, correct? Oh, and there's
I would
Scarlett, your
say
connector
yes, my interface is a
interface.
Focusrite Scarlett Solo. I would
Yeah.
say though, Source Connect, not a requirement as much for audiobooks, much more for commercials. For
Yeah.
commercials, you really should have it. For audiobooks, most of what you'll be doing at home by yourself, no engineer, so you don't need to log into any software. Most things will be shared through whatever the publisher uses, which could be
Yeah.
Dropbox, which could be Box.com, which could be WeTransfer. Google Drive, there's like a million ways to
Yeah.
share files nowadays and everyone has their own way, so,
Great.
that's that. Yeah, or
Great.
if you're lucky, they bring you into the studio and you don't have to worry about
A
anything.
thing.
You just act and it's wonderful.
Amazing. It's amazing. What about if you are not somebody who I feel like, your story is so impressive and it's also, one of those beautiful anomalies that frankly everybody really has in their own way, but just like you took the class, you got this audition, you booked
Yeah,
the thing and then you also like, got in with, Audible and then that happened to have the guy who happened to walk in and then that like you've had a lot of really beautiful moments that have allowed for connections that perhaps other people may not be as privileged to have in their own ways. So if
yeah,
I am still sitting at home and I'm twiddling my thumbs and I'm hoping for a way for me to be seen, to be heard, to be met, I do not have an agent. I
yeah,
do not.
yeah,
What are the sites that I need to be on? What are the accounts that I need to have? What are the classes that you have potentially found successful that you've shared with other people? Like,
yeah.
where are some of those
Alright,
resources?
I'm gonna try to break it down. Bam.
Great.
So ACX, great
Yeah.
place to start. It is basically the, like, Backstage.com or Actors Access for audiobooks. You go on, you make a little profile, and then there's auditions, and there's many
Yeah.
different kinds, and there's so much to say about this, but I will try not to go into all of it, but you look at auditions, but what's important is you have some samples up there that demonstrate kind of who you are and what you're able to do, and that you look at auditions and you submit yourself for things and make sure that the rate is one that you are willing to work for because there's many different ways that these rates can work and you want to make sure that the rates work for you. PFH means per finished hour. So whatever that number is, it'll be per finished hour of audio, not per hour of work. Very big difference. Very important to note that.
Mhm.
Um, and your samples can be anything. You can record them at home with whatever microphone you have. It does not need to be the highest quality. You just want to make sure that it sounds pretty dang good. It shows off what you're able to do, and it can be any book. Copyright be damned. Have a couple genres. Make sure some are first person. Make sure some are third person. Maybe throw some accents in there. If there's accents you're good at, and I emphasize this, you had better be good at them. And what I
Mhm.
mean is, don't be like, I can do an Irish accent. This is good.
Oh my god.
I have heard it. I have heard every iteration. Don't effing do
Yeah.
it. Like, just don't. If it is an accent you know you are good at, you've had some training, or you've spent time in that country, or your mom is from
Yeah.
there, or whatever, that's an accent you should have on your reel. Anything else, think long and hard because you need to
Yeah.
be able to do 12 hours of it, you know?
Mhm.
So think hard. And get your samples up there, start auditioning, see what's what. My advice, do a short book as your first one because you want to make sure that you are comfortable. And if you commit to a 12-hour book and you've never engineered for yourself before in your life, there will be tears. So
Yeah.
commit to something short, something low stakes, maybe a children's book, like something that's not going to take a million years and that you can kind of experiment with a little bit.
Mhm.
That's a great place to start. Other great things are taking classes. Paul Liberty, Johnny Heller, I have some friends who do great coaching as well, and I'll just say, Kimberly Wetherill, incredible coach, wonderful director, and lovely human being. I adore her. Gabra Zachman, actual mentor, incredible lady. She is like, I mean, the resume goes on for her. She is like such an
Mhm.
unbelievable career narrator, as well as Kimberly, and they're both wonderful and do kind of different things, but are really, really great people to get one-on-one coaching with if that's something that is available to you. Um, the APA is the Audio Publishers Association. You pay for a membership, and then they have all kinds of classes and resources, PDFs to print out and like look through of like all kinds of resources. They do tons of seminars and webinars. No matter where you live, you can get really great info. That's a great thing to join. And they do offer scholarships depending on what
Awesome.
what thing you might be or might need, financial need, or if you fit in a, marginalized group. Ask about scholarships if it's something you can't afford. They might be able to help you. Narrator's Roadmap, good website. Definitely good to look at. And also, D. Bradley Baker is a voice actor who is kind of like the animal noises guy in Hollywood. Like he does every like lion and tiger and
Yeah.
monster, and he's always the one growling into a microphone. He's phenomenal and a really talented guy, and he's got this great website with all sorts of things. I want to be a voiceactor.com. So that's a great website too. It's like,
Amazing.
it can take you whatever stage you're at, whether you are just starting out or if you've done some voiceover but you really want to go like all the way in. Really
Yeah.
great websites to check out and to get
Oh my
some
god.
great info. Yeah.
You dropped so much. That was awesome. Thank you for that. And now I guess I wanna talk in, like, our little bit of time left, I wanna talk about, the difference of audiobooks versus, say, like, a voiceover spot. Like, we don't need to do a full comparative because we have,
Mhm.
like, it's more just a matter of, like, what does it take to do an audiobook? Or what will make me I don't mean like stand out to be obnoxious about it, but like what allows for an audiobook audition to be different than say a regular voiceover
Sure,
audition
sure.
or like what about audiobooks what is the thing?
I would say if you are someone who's interested in it and hasn't done it before, go on Audible, listen to some samples, and like the really important thing, rhythm. Because
Mhm.
for a commercial, everything's like, we need to get a full paragraph into 15 seconds. Can you do it? And you're like, yes. And you're just like, like firing away all
Yeah.
the information and trying to make it clear while also, not sounding too perky, but sounding perky and like all this stuff. This is different. This is like, get comfortable. It's going to be 12 hours.
Yeah.
Everyone has different opinions on rhythm. I like to go fast. I'm Sonic, baby. Like you don't want it to be so fast that you can't understand what's going on because that's really important. You don't want to like run away with the listener and they're like, "Wait, what's going on?" But there are a lot of audiobook narrators who sort of narrate something like this. And it drives me nuts. And so you'll see on a lot of, like, reviews, people will be like, "I listened to this at 2 times speed," and it's because
Right,
it's slow,
exactly.
but some people prefer that, and, this it's such a personal preference. It is so much
Mhm.
about, like, what kind of listening experience you enjoy and want for yourself. So, I tend to go fast. I will have engineers be like, "Could we
Slow it down.
relax? Like, could
Yeah,
we
yeah,
take it
yeah.
down a notch?"
You're like, "Okay, I have somewhere to be and so do you. Don't you wanna get out of here faster?
Yeah,
I don't know
well,
where
because I 'cause I'm
we"
'cause
yeah.
I'm like, "Let's do it, I'm a machine," like, I'm like, "Let's do it," but, and also because, like, I find it so much more engaging if we're, like, really getting, like,
Yeah,
into
you're
the
moving through
story,
the
so
thing.
I like
Exactly.
to move and groove, not everybody does, but listen to some samples and you will start to be like, "I loved what this lady did. I did not love what this lady did," or, like, you might be like, "Ooh, Marnie Penning is killing it. I love her rhythm, she's
Mhm.
fabulous." And you might listen to someone else and be like, "That is so slow," or "That is so fast, I can't keep up with them." So, I'm just dropping my friend's name. It's really nice to be able
I
to be
love
like,
it.
"I love all these narrators." And that's another thing that's like, God, I mean, the community is exquisite. Like, out of all the
Mhm.
different kinds of actors there are some kind of parts of acting where people are very high strung or not necessarily nice or are very cutthroat and there's a lot of
Yeah.
competition. Narrating, it could not be nicer, more welcoming, more kind people. Everybody
It's
wants
so
to
funny
give you
because in my mind, it's
resources.
like everyone's just, like, isolated, in your own little
Well,
booth,
that's
just,
why
like, reading for
everybody
12 hours,
everybody
like
jumps at the chance to socialize and to be with each
Yeah.
other and to have togetherness because we're all alone all day. So then
Yeah.
if we get on the internet, I'm part of, Facebook groups are great, and I'm part of one that's like specifically for female career narrators who have been doing this for a long enough time that they've amassed some kind of a resume. So it's
Mhm.
just so that you're not getting people who are like, "What's a microphone?" And
Yeah.
it's people, and it'll be anything from like, "Hey, I'm in this weird situation. I'm doing a dual narration, and the male narrator is saying some things that are kind of offensive to me. What do I do?
Mhm.
How do I email him back? Can I get advice?" And people will be like, if you don't know this, this publisher has an HR department, or here's what you
Mhm.
should say, blah, blah, blah. Or did he say anything else? Did he say anything of this kind of thing? If he did, you
Yeah.
can talk to or talk to SAG, they'll help you. So it's this incredible community of people. And like, I've asked so many questions, of things where I was like, I don't really know what I'm doing. And some people will just vent. Sometimes you'll be
Yeah.
like, I'm frustrated. Does anyone else feel like this sometimes? Does anyone else have this experience? And people will be like, amen, sister. I'm feeling that all the time. And here's a
Yeah.
thing that I found that might help. So it is a really nice community of people. And I want to guarantee, but I'm pretty sure that if there's a voice actor in your life who's a narrator who if they have the time and the energy and ability, they will do anything they can to help you.
Yeah. I also love
Yeah.
how, like, I feel like, we were talking about this beforehand, just like how you were saying that audiobooks are really a medium that you don't necessarily need to have, all of the prior connections and
Yeah.
relationships to um make it happen for yourself. I'm curious to unpack that a little bit.
Sure. What I really love, I mean, there's a million things I love about this career path, but something I really, really love is that you don't really have to have connections. You don't really have to have, like we talk about nepo babies all the time, and it's like a thing, a point of frustration and, rage, and, people get, kind of heated about this because, in other types of acting, you need that connection. You need someone to introduce you to that agent, or you need, someone in your family who is in the business so that they can help you get those
Mhm.
opportunities and get in the room. For this, if you make an account on ACX, you will audition, you will book something. At some point, you will book something. It might not take very long, who knows, but, then you have a credit on Audible. Then you can reach out to people, producers and people from all the different publishers, all the different production companies, like all different producers, and you can be like, "Hey, I did this book. Look how great it sounds. This is, your roster is one I would really love to be part of. If you're looking for, voices like mine, I'd be happy to send you some samples, like, whatever." And you introduce yourself. And then most of the time they're looking for more people. It obviously, after you've done one book, you might not want to be like, "Hey, big five publishers." That would be like, Penguin Random House, Macmillan, Hachette, like all of those big names. You wouldn't want to be like, "Hey, I've done one audiobook.
Yeah.
What's up? Like, hire me." But there are so many different, people who produce audio, and if you are a member of the APA, they have like lists of people who are like, like places that create audiobooks and need narrators, and you can reach out to those places and those contacts. Um and you can make those connections on your own. You are your own agent, and it rules because
Mhm.
you're your only client. So you are looking out for yourself and doing what's best for you, and you are advocating for yourself. When
Yeah.
I'm negotiating rates, I'm deciding what I want my rate to be, and I'm saying, "Hey, is there room in the budget for a little bit more?
So
So
your
is this a rush
voiceover
job?"
agent has no say on your audiobook
My agents
credits?
will occasionally they'll get an audiobook audition.
Mhm.
Rarely, but occasionally they will, and I will audition through those with them. But anything else in my audiobook career, that's on me, baby.
But they don't even negotiate for you, like, none of that? They're not
If
affiliated
I
really with
if
anything that you
I
accrue on your own?
if I asked them to, I'm sure that like there's
Yeah.
one agent who I like, it's a big agency, there's lots of different people, but there's one agent who, we mesh, we're cool, and I think if I asked her for that favor of like, "Hey, I'm trying to figure this out," she would. But that just doesn't tend to be how it is, I
Yeah.
it just seems to be like they would rather just deal with you because, your agents at 5 o'clock, they're out and they
Yeah.
have other clients to deal with. So they might not hear for a few days. And if it's a rush job for an audiobook, like they need to know, like ASAP.
Mhm.
So they would much rather communicate directly with me and we can iron it out ourselves than have to go
Yeah.
through someone in between. So there are positive things and negative things about that. But
Yeah.
I for this in particular, I really like it because there's not all the if it like for commercials, you have to deal with like, usage and all of these different complicated contract things. And, like, will it, what will it be used internationally? Will it be used in the United States? How long will it be used for? What type of contract is it? That's all stuff that I'm very grateful I have agents who can negotiate and figure things out for me and read those
Yeah.
contracts and all that. For audiobooks, it's much simpler. It's just like, "Hey, do you wanna do the audiobook? We will own the audiobook. We will put it on Audible. You will make this amount of money. We predict the book will be, this length. Does that sound good?" And you go, "Yeah."
Mhm.
Or you say, "Hey, like,
Yeah.
seeing as this is a rush job, is there room in the budget for a little bit more for my rate? I was thinking something in this realm." And either they'll
Yeah.
write back like, "Sure, yeah, whatever," or they'll be like, "Unfortunately, this book does have a set budget. Let us know either way."
And this isn't the kind of thing that you could be like, with Yellowface, for example, it really blew up and garnered a lot of incredible attention and has made lists all over the place. It's not one of those things that, like, you would have with, say, a network television TV show where you're making residuals, right? It's just like flat rate. It
No,
doesn't really
yeah.
matter how successful it is.
Yeah, that's the one thing about audiobooks that I think, you know, if the workers can rise up,
Yeah.
that is
Yeah.
something that I personally believe really ought to change. We really deserve a
Yeah.
slice of that pie, Like,
Yeah. Well, if
there
you're the person that people are listening to and therefore the book is going onto the top charts of,
yeah,
top sellers,
and we wouldn't even be
it's a
asking for that much, it would be similar to
correct.
the TV strike that just happened. It would be like, "We are
Yeah.
looking for, like, 0.01%."
Yeah.
Because honestly, for, like, for a book like Yellowface or something like that, if I were making residuals from that,
Yeah, you'd be
perhaps this
sitting pretty.
madame could live in a nice big house, you know? Like, it would be a different world, and,
Yeah.
and I know that that is a fight that, there's a million complications of why that hasn't happened yet and why that is not something that SAG has, necessarily fought for yet. I don't know all the ins and outs, and I'm not gonna pretend that I've been at a bargaining table, so I don't wanna,
Yeah.
I don't wanna make any assumptions, but when I talk to my fellow narrators, I know that that is something that we all would benefit from so
100%.
so hugely,
100%.
especially because most of us
100%.
are depending on our narration work for health insurance, and,
Yeah.
like, that's important. So,
Yeah.
that's so yeah, no residuals, but this is one of the things where, you know when you audition for, like, a short film by some guy and he's like, "Exposure, you'll get exposure," and you're
Yeah.
like, "Great." For this, if it's something like Yellowface, I got
It's
some
really helpful.
exposure. It's true. It was really helpful. That was a really big career
Mhm.
moment. Lots of people listened. I got lots of, people listening and then reaching out and being like, "What else have you done?" and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And, and it won an award. It made a lot of
Mhm.
lists. Like, that really does make a difference because then what you can do is you can write down all those wonderful things that happened into an email, and you can write to producers who you've worked with and producers you haven't worked with and be like, "Hey,
Correct.
here's some, I hate to call it this, but leverage. But,
Yeah.
like, here is
Yeah.
here's
That's
proof."
how it all works.
You
It's
know?
total proof of concept. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
you
That's
need,
what
like I was
reviews are
talking about,
real.
yeah, like I was talking about evidence before, like, that is cold, hard evidence of, like,
Yeah.
people are listening to this book, people are liking this book, and I can generate that from what I did.
Yeah.
People will listen to this book for me, maybe. It's
Yeah.
like because that's part of it. The narrator is part of it. That people will be like, "Oh,
100%.
I see that Julia Whalen is doing the new Kristen Hanna book. I've never read Kristen Hanna before, but I love Julia Whalen. Let me
Yeah.
check it out." So, like, we
100%.
we have pull. We have some power here, and
Yeah.
so like I've noticed a big, like, things has shifted in my career as I've gone on
Yay!
because now, like, I've gotten bigger and bigger titles for bigger and bigger names and
Amazing.
publishers and authors and, now, like, there are
Yes.
more
Yeah, yes.
but,
I'm
there's
proud of
more
you.
direct offers now, it's
That's
not
awesome.
just me knocking on doors, now people are knocking on my door and saying, "Hey,
Well, you
are
put
you
in the hard
available?"
work.
You know?
Exactly. You've put in the time, you put in the energy, you've gained the proof of concept, you have the reviews to show for it, which is silly because you were good beforehand, but it's just like,
Well,
now you have all the proof for it.
it's about
Um,
making
and
people believe in you the way you
I
believe
know.
in yourself,
Believe in
and
yourself. Exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
I've definitely had things happen where there might have been a casting director, an agent, a producer who, on whatever side of acting things was not interested in me at all.
Yeah.
And then the right person recommended me, or I got the big
And that was
credit
it.
or whatever it was. And then they were like, "Please work with me."
Yeah.
literally, and nothing else changed. And I was
Yeah.
just like,
I know,
you
and you're
know
just like, "Y yes." As we begin to wind down our time,
yes.
is there anything that I didn't ask you that you're like, you'd be remiss not to mention about the audiobook land?
Oh.
Um
Um, I will say it's hard work. It really is.
Mhm.
It's really hard work, but it's incredibly fulfilling. And if you are able to put in the time and like the investment needed, which, again, that can be on a sliding scale depending on what your situation is, you can create a career that provides you with health insurance, that provides you with enough to live in a semi comfortable way. You can
Mhm.
support a family as a narrator, depending on how you live. You might not be going to Europe every month, but you can support a family by being a narrator, and you get to act every single day. So
Yeah.
it is an incredible career path with a lot of work involved, but I really feel so deeply and strongly that it is so incredibly worth the work.
Yeah. Yeah. For anybody who wants to work with you, anybody who wants to reach out
Oh,
kindly and be direct
be
in their
direct.
potential
Let me
ask
know.
and respectful, if they want to listen to things that you've done, like where in the ether can people find you and reach out within your boundaries?
Yeah. Oh, that's a lovely way to put that. You are
Yeah.
experienced and cleverly smart. Um, I would say probably the best thing would be just to go on my website because that's easy. It's my name, HELENLASER.com. And I've got a little contact thing. So if you want to say something to me, make it nice and email me.
I love it. I feel like I could talk to you in so many more details about so much more about this. So this was just the sample
Charcuterie
platter.
board.
Exactly. We love a charcuterie board. And this is, the beginning of just like the touches for this, and I think it's really important to dispel a little bit of the myths around it and give people some resources and tools of like where to start and where to look. And I feel
Yeah.
like you dropped so many of those in the midst of this whole conversation. And I think it's just really great to hear someone like yourself who's put in the time and the work and the energy and trusted the process
Yeah.
and also showed up for the process consistently to see that it does work. And that,
Yeah.
yes, did it happen overnight? Maybe not, but has it happened over time in a way that it's supposed to? And now you have so much to quote unquote prove for it, which again means nothing because you've been doing it really well the whole time. But sure, from an external perspective, then great. But like, I think all of this is really helpful to be hearing, to remember that it is possible, especially if somebody really has a desire for it. And it doesn't have to feel like this nebulous thing. So even if
Yeah.
it's just like looking at your closet and putting some clothes in there again, just to like be inspired by the fact that now there's a little bit more dampening. And then the next day you
Yeah.
find a simple little rug and you put it on the ground. And the next day you find a cute little blanket and put it
Yeah.
on the wall. And the next, and it just becomes slow and slow and slow.
It's a
It's still
process.
possible.
It is absolutely
Yeah.
a process for sure.
Yeah.
And I will say
So,
too that like you just have to not be daunted and not be afraid to ask for help, whether it's from your
yeah.
union or people you know. Don't be daunted. Believe in yourself. Go and look at those tutorials, and if you need a person, ask people. People are willing to
Yeah.
talk. People are willing to
Yeah.
to chat with you. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah. I adore you. Thank you for being in this space with me. You're an absolute hoot and you're just I'm curious, just as like a final thought, like what hat were you wearing during this conversation? Like visually? Did
visually.
it feel
Oh,
like?
oh, what hat was it? Well, I guess it was my narrator's hat, so I'll just say it was like a beautiful top hat printed with beautiful books and a big feather made
Yeah.
out of pages, and I'm going like
Love.
this. And
Yes.
after this, I'm gonna
Yes.
continue to narrate a crazy romance. Absolutely
Great.
insane, spicy old
Obsessed.
romance.
Obsessed.
I'll tell you more
Obsessed.
about it, but it's a little too explicit to discuss on this podcast.
To be continued.
To be continued, yo.
I adore you, my dear.
It's so
Thank
good
you
to see
again.
you.